Do you ever think about what the most busted thing you can do in Commander is? Some people don't like combo, some people don't like counter spells, but the true evil? It's neither. It's just making all your land drops. Let's take a look at Commander deck that makes all its land drops and puts its opponents in the dust. We're talking about Erinis Gloom Stalker with Scion of Halaster. This is a green-black lands deck, and I promise you, she might look a little unassuming, but once this halfling gets rolling, there's no stopping it. Already pretty well statted, a 3-mana 3/3 with Death Touch, but it also has Rampant Growth attached to it. You see, whenever it attacks, return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It doesn't say basic land, it says a land card. So if you can dream up a creative quality land to have in your graveyard, it's coming back. And then you're going to do it the next turn, and the next turn, and the next turn. Because the last thing people want to do is block a 3/3 with Death Touch. You're getting the first land no matter what. It's a trigger on attack. But after that, they're not even going to realize that you've been making 2 land drops a turn out of the command zone every turn. And then they're not going to realize you've been putting extra cards in the graveyard every turn. Let's take a look at Scion of Halaster again. It's a background, and it gives your commander the first time you would draw a card each turn, instead look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one in the graveyard, put the other back on top of your library, then draw a card. So we get to dunk our lands into the graveyard, play a land from our hand, get to bootin', and get that second land back. Now, let's take a look at a bunch of the rest of the cards in the deck, and you can check out the whole list online on my Mox field. Link in the comments. We have 3 Planeswalkers in the deck, but the one I really want to highlight is Nissa of Shadowed Boughs. It has landfall, get a loyalty counter, which means you play it on 4, you play your 5th land drop, because you will be at least at 5 on turn 3. And now you get to reanimate something. Or maybe you just have an absolute bomb in your hand. We get to play the Littlest Planeswalker, Deathrite Shaman, control other people's graveyards, eat their fetch lands, do a little bit of draining, do a little bit of gaining. You know the drill. A fairly recent add to my deck list is Iridescent Vine Lasher, and why wouldn't we play this? It's got Offspring, and it'll give you a token so that whenever you make a land, each opponent takes 1. And if you have the Offspring token, each opponent takes 1 again. Another new card from 2024, we've got Aftermath Analyst. It mills 3 cards when it enters. And then you get to instant speed Splendid Reclamation if you need to. And you're gonna wanna do that at some point. It's a lands deck, so no question. We're playing Azusa Lost But Seeking. Additional land drops is always good. And we have some lands that are totally worth playing a few times from our graveyard. So obviously we're playing Ramanapa Ruins to go along with it. Hey, what if you draw all your lands? Well, we're going to use them to retrace permanents from our graveyard with 6. This thing is so bonkers. Again, huge get for the deck in 2024. Honestly, the best card in the deck is Underrealm Lich. You stop drawing cards, so you could mill yourself out, which is great. And you just start getting 1 of 3 cards and putting the rest in your graveyard. It fills up so fast. Oh, and Indestructible? The 4 life will not matter. Our graveyard's full. We want big stuff. We're playing Sepulchral Primordial. For some reason, I've grabbed the Spanish version of the card here, but it reanimates a creature from everyone's graveyard onto the battlefield for you. We get to play my favorite green card of all time, Life from the Loam. Dredge 3 is great. We're going to keep picking up lands, playing them, sacrificing them, doing all the good stuff. I don't know if you've heard of Dousing Dagger, but you give someone some O2 Plant Defender tokens, which are actually pretty hard to find at this point. You get in for combat damage with Erinis, and you flip it over. Oh, and hey, it's a land as well, Lost Veil. It's like Lotus Field, but you don't have to sacrifice anything, and it taps for 3 mana. We have a graveyard deck in black, so that means we're turning on the whip all the time, and we are definitely playing Whip of Erebos. That lifelink, definitely valuable, and we have some really powerful ETBs in our deck, so we might as well put them back on the battlefield again and again. Graveyard deck means we need some reanimation. We're playing Animate Dead, and we're also playing Quest for the Necropolis, which is a 1-drop. Every time you play a land, you add a quest counter, making it cheaper and cheaper to sacrifice and use. I've been loving Case of the Locked Hothouse. It's great, playing additional land each turn, obviously good. It's gonna get solved right away, and then it turns the top of your library into a place where you can play lands and creatures from. It's been so good, I'm considering cutting Courser of Crufix. It's a lands deck, so let's talk about some utility. Obviously, we've got Bajuka Bog. Crop rotation, getting this and stopping someone's graveyard plan is always paramount. Fetch lands just absolutely make this deck hum. Even if you were to play Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse as your only fetch lands, the deck would still run really well. Nurturing Peatland might be probably the 2nd or 3rd best land in the deck, but late game, you can start sacrificing it to draw a card, putting it in the graveyard, replaying it from the graveyard, and doing it again. Obviously, we're playing Takenuma and Boseiju Who Endures. We gotta love that uncounterable disenchant. Tomb Fortress has been a really neat add to the deck. I've really liked it. 5 mana, tap it, reanimate a creature from your graveyard. Not a great rate, but on a land, absolutely bonkers. We also are playing Polluted Mire. Just the cycling to draw a card, trigger Underwhelm Lich, all of that's really good. And of course, we need a really obnoxious win con in our deck, because why wouldn't we have that in a lands deck? So we're going to Scape Shift, sack all our lands, find a bunch more. That's going to trigger Retreat to Hagra a bunch of times. Our opponents are going to lose a bunch of life. And then we're going to play Splendid Reclamation, return all the lands in our graveyard back to the battlefield to drain our opponents for the rest of it. Just a week ago, I was able to put every single land card in the deck on the battlefield. And the deck runs 40 lands naturally. By my math, that's a win. So it's a green-black lands deck, and Erinis is amazing. But you might be thinking, well, why wouldn't you just play the Gitrog monster? Gitrog's in the deck. But when I set out on building this deck about a year ago, I wanted something that I could play at any table at any time. And when you sit down with the Gitrog monster, people assume you're going to try and do Shuffle Titan loops, cast Dawn Charm, Dark Ritual, make infinite mana, destroy the table. I don't want to do that. Now, is Gitrog with Underwhelm Lich an absolute house in the deck? Yeah. Can I empty my library? Yeah. But I really want a positive play experience, even as I'm attacking people with my little 3/3 Death Toucher. Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate gave us a really cool mechanic with backgrounds. Some are not great, and I'll admit Scion of Halaster isn't an amazing thing, but I can't play Cultist of the Absolute in this deck. If you're getting bogged down with new commanders all the time, it might be worth taking a look at some of these. Lots of uncommon legendaries. Heck, there's even common backgrounds. And they all produce a really unique set of scenarios that are going to be totally unique, that's going to throw your table off a little bit too. Like I just said, I've been working on this deck for over a year now. It's kind of become a passion project, and I have a great time every single time I play it, to the point where I think it's going to stay together, and that's not like me. So now some upgrades I'll be putting in the deck: Field of the Dead, Demonic Council, Head Shredder, and some bounce lands. You know the ones: Golgari Rot Farm, Guildless Commons, and Arid Archway. The deck looks really good. I, of course, have chosen a bunch of amazing basic lands, but the number of 19 basics is definitely going down. I think I'm going to try and get it down to about 8, which means I got 10 land slots to play with, and I'm super excited about that. Since you stuck around this long, you might as well like and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. It helps the channel out so much. And then let me know what deck you've had as a passion project over the last little while. I'd love to hear it. Hope this helps.